there's a report today from Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated that the 49ers sort of intend on getting rid of Jimmy and working with him and maybe having him throw for teams in July. And they're planning on naming Trey Lance the starter. It sounded so great. But it's like,
it sounded so vague though, right?
It sounded so
they would
vague.
Like to get rid of him. They plan.
Yep. And it's just, to me, it just kind of, first of all, it's amazing that the Niners are still like in the process thinking about maybe doing it. And to me, it just underscores the big difference between them and the Rams. The Rams never have a story like this where they're like, like Todd Gurley's still on the team or Jared Goff's still on the team. I mean, not to go straight to the Rams, but it's just a very interesting dichotomy between the two top teams in the division, how they do business. Jimmy's still here.
The teams in the conference, right? Two top teams in the conference. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, look, the Niners are going to potentially have this is be dead money, right? If Jimmy Garoppolo's on the bench, they'll potentially have $27 million of dead money. The Rams did it with Jared Goff, but they at least got Goff off the team. Like
Grant, listen, they gave up extra first round pick, right? They traded 2 for Stafford. Was it 2 for Stafford or was it 1 for? No, Stafford was 2 first total. So they traded 1 for Stafford. Then they traded 1 first round pick in Brock Osweiler fashion to get rid of Jared Goff. And then they took $24 million of dead cap with Jared Goff because they felt that in order to win a Super Bowl, we can stomach all of this. We just don't need Jared Goff on our football team. And they went and won the Super Bowl.
You know what I don't like about this? By doing all this, let's say the Niners get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo finally in July. Great. And they get something for him. Still, their backup quarterback is Nate Sudfeld.
Right.
That's terrible because let's say Trey Lance misses 3 games and they lose those 3 games because Nate Sudfeld can't win. I mean, that could be the difference between making the playoffs and not. And it's like, if you had just gotten rid of Jimmy Garoppolo at the beginning of the offseason, you're not going to get much for him. You could have got a good backup. You could have got Andy Dalton.
Right. Tyrod Taylor. Nate Sudfeld is back in the CJ Beathard, Nick Mullins conversation as the backup quarterback. Yes. And there were so many available this offseason. And that's where I do feel like if you wanted to have a good backup, like let's say they're nervous about Trey Lance or nervous about him getting an injury, you can get a true backup quarterback like Tyrod Taylor, who could start in a pinch and be serviceable, who won't put pressure on Trey Lance like Jimmy Garoppolo will making it a total competition or all of that. He's kind of the perfect backup quarterback in the sense that he's going to be out of the way, but you also know that if we had to start Tyrod for 5 games, we can go 3-2 with Tyrod Taylor.
Yes.
And then he also adds the element of having the ability to run the exact same offense by doing all the run game stuff Trey Lance does. I thought it was a perfect fit from that standpoint. Tyrod Taylor's on the Giants, by the way, for anybody who's wondering. Andy Dalton's in New Orleans. I think Jacoby Brissett was signed by the Browns, I want to say. So there were a few good ones available that you could have gotten your hands on. I don't love the idea of, going into a season with just Trey Lance and Nate Sudfeld because Trey Lance has gotten hurt twice now.
I'm right with you there.
2 starts. And I know Sudfeld got $2 million guaranteed, which indicates they do look at him as a backup, but Sudfeld has more or less been terrible when he's given the opportunity to play. I know that some people seem to have the belief, the Niners seem to have the belief that he could be a starter. I don't
hold on.
see it
He was on the practice squad last year. No one poached him. No one else thinks he's even a backup. So to me, he's a 3rd-string quarterback that's masquerading as a number 2, should never start a game. And the Niners, see, to me, like this is the topic is the game of footsie with Jimmy Garoppolo. It may pay off. So they may get a draft pick in return for him in July. But let's tally up the cost of this game. It cost them the ability to get a quality number 2 quarterback. I mean, the Cardinals have one.
They might have said with Colt McCoy. They might have said they didn't want one too, right? Like the Niners might be, we didn't want one, but that doesn't make it right? Like that's what a lot of people say.
They wanted one last year, right?
They can keep Garoppolo for $25 million because guess what? They just, I just processed what you said. That was funny. Yeah. Strengthen the quarterback room. Trade 3 first-round picks to strengthen the room. Excuse me. But okay, you can say a lot of people said that they wanted to make one move. That was Charvarius Ward in free agency. After that, they didn't need to make any other move. That's why they can quote unquote foot the bill of Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right that the Niners just feel they're a corner and a couple special teamers away so they can just have $25 million on the books for a quarterback who, who's likely not going to play for them.
Right.
So I don't understand just because, they said they're going to do something. I don't necessarily think it's the right move. And that's where I do think that it would have gone a long way. Tyrod Taylor signed for what, like 8 million, 10 million. I think that would be a fruitful backup because the problem is, and somebody, footsie is when you're flirting with somebody. The Niners are kind of flirting with Jimmy Garoppolo. They like him, they don't like him. They like him, they don't like him. It's a game.
We like him, but we don't.
But it's
like
also a game of chicken.
Like you.
It's also a game of chicken. That's well said. But the point is, at some point, you just got to have some conviction in the fact that you traded up this much for Trey Lance. He's your guy. Jimmy Garoppolo, what he does or doesn't do is irrelevant at this point. He's gone. It doesn't matter. And just holding on to him, prolonging this process, trying to get value for him, all of that doesn't matter. I talked about it with Larry Krueger on Wednesday 2 weeks ago. We talked in ad nauseum about Garoppolo. And I said Bill Belichick thought so highly of Tom Brady. He took former number 1 overall pick Drew Bledsoe, who took the Patriots to the Super Bowl in 1996, by the way, and he sent him to Buffalo in the division.
It's a great point.
So if you believe in your franchise quarterback, right, it doesn't matter where an average quarterback who makes a lot of money like Jimmy Garoppolo goes. And I think the 49ers do believe in Trey Lance because their actions scream they believe in Trey Lance. I don't think there's any way to say they don't, but they also aren't being definitive about their belief in Trey Lance by, doing that extra step, right?
Hold on. With Albert Breer's report, what they're basically making it seem like is that Jimmy's not going to be on this team. Like he's probably not even going to be there for training camp. And I bet my dad a bottle of wine that he's going to be there week 1. So in that sense, it's good news. I'm probably going to lose this bet. But also what Albert Breer's trying to make it seem like is that the Niners are going to be vindicated. Like, sure, it looked bad that they held on and missed the market, but they're going to get something for Jimmy and it's all going to work out. Like they may or may not get something for Jimmy. And I don't think it's going to be much, but we got to okay. So you'll trade him in July and get a 5th round pick. Great. And you'll free up some cap room. Well, let's talk about all the stuff you could have done with the cap room had you done this months ago. So I feel like they're kind of setting this up as like a positive spin for the Niners. And I'm looking at it as like, I mean, you did it, but this underscores how easily this could have been done months ago.
I think there is, some positivity. Like, I don't look at it as like the Jimmy Garoppolo, whatever happens this offseason with Garoppolo is going to make or break the 49ers season. Because really what's going to make or break the 49ers season is how good is Trey Lance, really. And we'll get to find that out. That's the nice thing, right? Instead of hearing reports about his arm fitness and hearing reports about his playbook knowledge and, debating whether he's actually good or he isn't, we get to watch him for one
every
season.
Day, I'm going to give him a 1 to 10 rating on arm fitness every day.
All right.
7.5 arm fitness today. Gotta work on
Appreciate it. Great. That's what we really need. But what is a 7.5 of arm fitness?
I'll be like, Trey, a lot of people talking about your arm fitness these days. What do you say to the what? Sorry.
But the point is, right, Trey Lance is going to make or break their season. So from that standpoint, there is like a positive spin that this is really a kind of detail that's kind of irrelevant. The issue is that here we are, May 23rd. Trey Lance has been the plan to be the starter. They traded up 3 first-round picks for him, and yet they won't definitively call him their starting quarterback. They're not marketing him like their starting quarterback, which I don't think is much of an issue, but at the same time, it's a bit bizarre in terms of how you conducted business, because one of the biggest problems we had with how the Niners handled Jimmy Garoppolo the last 4 years is they always felt halfway in with Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes. And if you remember what I said before the draft, a lot of people asked me who I wanted at quarterback, all of that. I said the number one thing that was important to me as a 49ers fan was that Shanahan was going to finally get a guy that he could be 100% in on. And as long as he gets that guy, I couldn't care less. And here we are in May 23rd in Trey Lance's second season. And even though their actions scream because of what they gave up that they're 100% in on Trey Lance, they won't take it that step further and put that little bit of pressure upon themselves by saying, we love Trey Lance. We think Trey Lance
and because they won't do that, there's still those urban legends like, he wanted Mac Jones, or he might have, maybe that's not his guy. Because of that. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why this is even kind of a relevant topic, right?
Yeah.
Because You went a little bit out of focus. I had to get you back in.
I know.
But the point is, like, this is a relevant topic because you're going to have this conversation about Jimmy Garoppolo still being here. I think at some point, if you're the 49ers, like, that's where the Rams comparison does come in. The Rams have made so many moves in the McVay-Snead era that are just bizarre. Okay, we can talk about the results. A lot of them have worked out, but the process of a lot of them, right? Like trade Marcus Peters, then trade for Jalen Ramsey 2 first without being unsure whether you can sign Jalen Ramsey, then manage to sign Jalen Ramsey. Managing to sign Jalen Ramsey was brilliant, but at the time, a lot of people looked at it as, okay, you are trading for the best corner in football, but look at the cap. How are you going to be able to sign him, right?
Yeah.
But I think the one thing the Rams have
and then when they sign him, they're like, oh, that team's screwed. That team has no future.
Right.
Yeah.
But the one thing they've had, and the Goff-Stafford trade, I think emphasizes this as much as anything, is that they have a lot of conviction in what they're doing. They're not really caring about other stuff or whatever. They believe in what they're doing and they're going to do it. And it's more of a belief in their process rather than the end results, right? Because if you're worried about the end results, then that's why Jimmy Garoppolo is still around on May 23rd. They didn't care what Jared Goff would do on the Rams. They are on the Lions. They believed in the process of getting Stafford and believing they could win a Super Bowl with Stafford, and they achieved that. The Niners have that same process, right? They do not believe in Garoppolo. That's why they traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. They believe they can win a Super Bowl with Trey Lance. That's why they traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. And yet here we are, and Trey Lance has still not been named the starter. Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the roster, and they're not marketing Trey Lance. And again, these things all by September could be irrelevant because Garoppolo could be gone. They could finally be all in on Trey Lance. It just creates this disconnect because it doesn't feel like you are as definitive on the direction of your organization as much as your actions scream. Sometimes it goes a long way to, put Trey Lance on a poster and market him. The Niners did. Sometimes it goes a long way to call a quarterback your starting quarterback. Look at what it did for Alex Smith when Jim Harbaugh was all in on him.
See, what you're
Look
describing
what it did for Colin Kaepernick
is sort of like what I felt about the Harbaugh years. Is it not? Like what you're describing with the Rams is kind of the hallmark of the Harbaugh years. They were so confident in what they were doing back then.
And the Niners really should be, right?
Yeah.
The process screams that they should be. And yet, I don't know why John Lynch says, oh, he's got to prove that he's the starter. It's not that it means anything. I think he's going to prove that he's the starter regardless because of what they gave up for him. The problem I have is just that I don't understand what's wishy-washy now. Why do you have to be wishy-washy? You traded 3 first-round picks for a guy. You've tried to trade Jimmy Garoppolo all offseason. You've blamed being unable to trade him on him and his shoulder surgery. It's all his fault. So what's the issue now?
I don't know.